All right, and you're all set.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April 6th Lacey Board of Park Commissioners meeting. I am Aaron Wheeler, the board chair, and those of you following at home may notice that things may look a little bit different. We have gone to a hybrid portion of our meetings now. Now, Jen, are the public allowed in the live? They can come to the city now. Okay, so yeah, so now members of the public are welcome to go see live, or we can be here virtual still. So thank you for all joining. And I would like to on agenda number 2 make an addition. So if we can make an addition to 8D, and that would be about the Greg Cuyo tour, park board tour. And so I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect.
Hi.
Okay. And announcements and introductions. So Jen, any announcements?
Yes, but I think we should make a habit, especially with the hybrid, just to go around real quickly and introduce.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought we were going to do the
No.
introduction also. Okay. Yeah, that was the intention coming up next, but sure, we'll do it now. So so everyone in the room, do you want to introduce yourselves and then we'll go around virtually?
Sure. I'm Cameron Good, Park Commissioner, and I'm excited to be here.
I'm Gary Larson, Parks Commissioner, new member.
I'm Sue Baelish, the Recreation Manager.
Hi, Jen Burbage, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation.
All right. I'm Aaron Wheeler, Park Chair. And then
Dave Weber, new member, second meeting.
Wendy Goodwin, Park Commissioner.
Sarah Daniels, Park Commissioner.
Sarah Smith, Executive Assistant for Parks, Culture, and Recreation.
She's an executive assistant. I don't know, your sound is a little garbly, so I'll fill in for you.
Oh, no. Executive Assistant for the City of Lacey Parks, Culture, and Recreation. I just have to shout at my computer.
There you go.
that's a lot of words on a business card, but it looks awesome. Well, awesome.
I just have one announcement is good news for Commissioner Daniels. She was appointed to her second term at the March 17 City Council meeting. So thank you for your service and appreciate you continuing on.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. Is there anyone in the public online with us today?
No, I don't have anybody online.
Okay. Cool. And so number 4, approval corrections of March meeting minutes. Anyone have anything they want to add or delete from last month's agenda? All right. Hearing no objections, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Correspondence. There's one correspondence, and just letting you guys know it's kind of an ongoing topic of something that we're going to cover in a future meeting. So we'll just leave it at that. And you said there's no one public, so no citizen or public comments, I take it. Then we'll move on to 7, old business. A, Greg Cuyo Park Phase 1A.
Okay, that's me. Thank you. You guys will have to be patient with us for our first hybrid meeting here. Can you all see this?
Yes.
I think it's a little bit too big. All right, whoops, now it's too small. Okay. Okay, so we really meant to get this phase 1A into your packet, but in our attempts to get you the full Greg Cuyo Park master plan in its finished form, which was, by the way, too large of a document, so we had to provide a link. We failed to get this one in there, so I promise it'll be in there next time, and I have it up on the screen. So the only update I have on this is that the contract was approved by the city council to move forward with HPB Landscape Architects to do the design of phase 1A. There's one thing that we're internally looking at, kind of reviewing with staff, which is adding, because everything in yellow is phase 1A, but we're considering adding the biggest of the shelters in there. It would drive the cost up, but sure would be nice to have that gathering spot if we can swing it. So we are, I'm seeing some nodding heads, and I think you guys might agree with that.
Any other shelters in phase 1?
So not in phase 1A. In phase 1, there are other shelters. But just for this first initial one, it would just be the addition of this big guy here. So we'll have to look, we're actively getting the cost right now.
What's the, oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, what's the approximate time frame of the completion for 1A?
So we are on track for groundbreaking in fall of 2023 as of right now. The next step would be grant applications to the Recreation and Conservation Office. So Sarah and I will be working really hard on that. In April, the first draft is due in May, beginning May. So we'll be putting in for that and sharing with you all. We also, what's next for the park board is looking at a 5-year financial plan just for that phase 1A. So that's something that we're going to be working with maintenance. I don't think Jamie's here tonight, but he will be for the discussion for the financial side of it. And then, of course, wanting to bring park board out on a tour, which we have that on a later agenda item, thanks to our update. And we also, one of the next steps is working with the South Puget Sound Disc Golf Association for design of the first 18 holes, which is part of phase 1A. That's what all these are up here.
What is the budget for that, Jim?
So we only have a design budget right now, which is $784,000. That's for the design only. We think the construction will be somewhere between 3 and 5 million. And that's something that the consultant is helping us put together right now. So that's all I had on that.
Fantastic.
Oh, actually, sorry, one more thing. I brought, this is the hard copy of the final master plan. For anybody who wants to either look at it tonight if you're here or stop by my office, but you can see it's about this thick. But that's the link that we sent you with all of the reports and all that, the final, so.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
All right. So 7B COVID-19 update.
Yeah, so all good news on the COVID front. As you know, face covering requirement was dropped, although of course we want to make sure everybody knows, whether it's staff, commissioners, or the public, that you can always wear your face covering if you're more comfortable. We obviously have our hybrid meeting format. We see this format continuing for the foreseeable future, just because it actually has increased attendance at meetings because people have the option to come in person or hybrid. That's all I have on that.
Great. And then 7C, Park Board Rules of Procedure. And this is an actionable item.
Yeah, so as you know, this is something we're working on. We had made some changes to the last draft. So we put an updated copy in your packet. And we did also provide the link to the council policy that comes first. If you recall, conversation at the last park board meeting was how does this fit into the overall city council policies? And so we did provide that link for you. And so we are ready to see if the park board's ready to adopt the rules of procedure.
So Jen,
Yes.
you mentioned that link. You said you provided us with the link. Was the link actually going to be built into this document? I mean, I just thought it might be more if someone's looking at this document, I thought we had talked about possibly doing a link or at least referencing where that, that other document. So someone would know, because I think you said that other document refers to the number of commissioners, residency requirements, term limits.
Yes, okay, so let me get this up on the screen so you guys can see. And we can add that, certainly. Let's
Well,
see.
just if people think it's helpful, I'm just making a suggestion. I'm not.
Okay, so let me pull it open on the screen here real quick. Let's see, you have to bear with me. Okay, so sorry, make you dizzy for just one sec here. So the standards, protocols, and ground rules handbook, is the document, the overall city document that we're talking about. And so what Commissioner Daniels is referring to is potentially at the top of the Board of Park Commissioners rules. We can either do it up here or just right here is make a reference to this handbook and where people can find it. And we're actually getting a new website, so we'd have to update that link. But I'll click this link so that you can see where that takes. Actually, I won't, because that's our old website. We're getting updated. Sorry, I'm fumbling with this. Let's see.
Or if the link is going to, well, I imagine once the link is updated, it'll probably be in place for a considerable time. But I mean, if the link is problematic, we can at least just make reference to the document. Because if somebody wonders, for example, in number 2, the term of office doesn't make any reference to term limits, for example. So if that's detailed in that other document, I guess I would just want people to know, to point them in that direction, for example.
Here's the rules. Sure, yeah, do other commissioners have thoughts about it? Do you want me to add that in? We can do as amended, if you'd like.
I
Yeah, I was
agree with Sarah on that, Commissioner Daniels on that.
As do I. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Are there any other comments or suggestions from other commissioners about any additions or deletions?
You mean to the
Okay.
overall document?
Yeah, just overall.
Yeah, and this is really tiny, but I saw on number 6.1, as written, it says 4 members of the commission constitutes a quorum. There should be an of there. 4 members of the commission.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
good point. Good
Yeah,
catch.
that's the only thing I noticed. I read through the whole thing, and that's the only thing that jumped out at me. Everything else looked good.
Right. That's a fine tooth comb for sure.
But another small quick thing, if this is ever going to be a printed document, I'd suggest a page break at number 9. Just move it to the next page so it doesn't float there on its own.
Certainly.
And I think at our last meeting, we kind of discussed if we have an unexpected member that's leaving, like, is there since we are a volunteer group, is there an expectation of kind of giving notice as to when, if I'm leaving, would you like a certain amount of time so you have time to get another commissioner ready?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. That's actually mentioned in the overall handbook. It just says to send a notice as soon as possible.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't see that on this one. So would that be on the link then? Is that where I would need to go?
Yep. Yep, it'd be the link that we add at the top that
Okay.
references the overall handbook.
Okay.
The wording would be this right here,
Okay.
and we'd have the link where they could access the handbook.
Okay.
All right. Well, if
Sarah?
there are no other suggestions, then
And
oh, yes.
sorry.
No, you're
So
fine.
Jan, you and I have talked about this before, but I figure since we're moving forward with a formal, this rules of procedure document, I would like the board as a group to consider, can I just say it's a personal thing, but it drives me crazy that we are called the park board and not parks. It there's no way that we are the commission of a single park. And when Jen signs, on your letter, it says, well, that we are parks, culture and recreation. And yet when it comes to the board, somehow we become a park board. And anyway, personal thing. I'm just saying, I would like us to be the parks board in everything that we do, because it just bugs me that it's singular. And I just figured now's the time to bring it up.
Yeah, so, and it's good because we have new commissioners too. So what I had shared with Commissioner Daniels was the official title is called the Board of Park Commissioners. And then we get kind of, I think because it is the Board of Park Commissioners, we kind of get shortened, you all get shortened to Park Board instead of Parks Board. So I guess it could be a matter of changing the official title to Board of Parks Commissioners. I think it's actually a difference between kind of a West Coast and an East Coast thing. Because when I go to conferences back East, it's always the park, this and the park, the Board of Park Commissioners and it's always in a singular form. I noticed recreation and park programs, they always say instead of parks, plural. But certainly if the park board would like to make, sorry, I'm just in a habit, would like to make a recommendation to the council, it would actually be, I think it would be the council that would need to change the name because it's actually in their handbook.
Okay.
Or I don't know, maybe we could just slip the S in if you guys want.
Why
can't include recreation?
If I have a choice, I
This is
want it
just
to be a
me.
Z.
So if it doesn't
Parks
bother
Board.
anyone else, I will live with it. I just want to bring it up. I will let it go.
You just had a really good point too.
Because in all of this, it leaves out recreation and culture, and that is majority of what we do. And we're not even part of the whole name, so it doesn't, if we're gonna change it, let's just be all inclusive.
Maybe if we're changing it, do the whole thing, yeah, then it'd be really long. So, well,
And
that's
maybe this is a topic for another meeting. I don't want to belabor the point, but the only reason I brought it up is because this is an official document and it's an actionable blah, blah, blah. Plus later, we're going to go over our statement and all that where it comes up again. So we can pass it and talk about it at another time because it sounds like it's a bigger issue. I didn't realize it was so, tied up in other things.
It's a valid point, and we should address it. And we appreciate you bringing it up.
We can
Okay,
make
yeah,
it a future topic if we need to really talk about it, because I don't want to generate a lot of work for folks. I mean, taking it to city council all of a sudden makes it seem like too big a deal. So I don't know. Let's talk about it.
I can check on the process.
Yeah.
No,
But I say
if Aram, if you want to go ahead, I'm okay with the.
But I think that if we add the S, we might as well do the whole thing. I agree. I just do the whole park, rec, and culture because I send out all the emails that we get through the city, and I'm sending them to everyone I know, and they're like, "Why are you in part of the cultural stuff now? Are you part of the, cleanup events? And that's part of what we are doing." So when you send them something that you're like, I'm a park commissioner, they're like, what park do you work for? Well, I'm with Sarah. All the parks, and if we're doing cultural events and we're trying to build up the community for everything that we know, I think our title should include everything that we are involved in.
We'd be the PCR board at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Olympia, actually, now that I think about it, I think Olympia, theirs is called.
So can we add an agenda item? Because it sounds like this is a topic, that has some facets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to, just so I stop confusing everyone I talk to.
All right, well, yeah, we'll have that on a later agenda. For now, I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Park Commissioner Rules of Procedure as amended with this evening's suggestions. Do I have to list them, or are they pretty much clarified? We're good. Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, great.
Thank you all.
And moving on, that brings us to number 8, new business, annual report.
Bear with me just a moment. I'd like to share the screen because there's so many great pictures. It's not in there. I think I had to click the link, maybe. Open everything. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is our 3rd edition that this board helped us create. And so we're looking for approval of the annual report. Hopefully you all had a chance to review it. And I know that you definitely, sorry, I'm gonna make you dizzy for a second, but it's so beautiful. All the pictures and all the highlights.
Excuse me.
I know that you guys, look at your lovely pictures.
This picture got my hat on.
Hey, you have your hat on now.
I do, same one probably.
And you all had proved this portion, we had this one come before you ahead of time. Now it's plugged into the overall report. There's Sue and I and the rest of our leadership team. So yeah, happy to answer any questions you might have about it or entertain a motion.
Jen,
Yes.
while you have the leadership team statement up, can I do my usual favorite thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the second paragraph, you need a space between, you don't have a space between the second to last and the last sentence. See right there, yeah, it says.
Okay.
Now, if that gets too problematic, instead of saying look different below, you could just say the way the public participates might change. I'm just saying if you're running out of space.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'd also like to suggest, I think that the, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So the 4th paragraph where you do the whole thing with bullet points, I think the first sentence makes more sense as the beginning of your 3rd paragraph instead of including it, because the caliber of Lacey Park system doesn't really have anything to do with COVID. I think that first sentence is a better opening sentence for paragraph 3.
Right here.
Yeah.
Just for you, take a look at it and tell me what you think. It's just that it's important to point out why Lacey's parks and programs are critical during normal times and now especially during COVID-19. Last year, we recognized a renewed appreciation, especially during the pandemic. You know, and then it talks about the pandemic, because the other part, that paragraph where that sentence comes from is talking about the caliber of Lacey Park system with the bullet points. I think that's kind of standalone. It seems unrelated to
That's an easy
COVID.
fix. I think that makes more sense. So move this sentence up here.
I would, yeah, I would, that, you know, that's my thoughts. And then last thing is really small, but on your last paragraph, you need to just take out one of, there's an and. So it says, Lacey Park System and the many programs and services available is made possible by a tremendous amount of teamwork between the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department, comma, Public Works Maintenance, and because you have multiple other things, the and should only go at the last item.
Yeah, so it's because all of these fall under public works.
Oh, is that all one? Oh, that's
Yeah.
all one. Never mind. I thought there were 2 entities.
Yeah, so public works has park maintenance, water resources, and
Got
project
it.
management.
I'm sorry. The ands threw me off. I thought it was like, okay, got it. Never mind. I'm
That's
good
okay.
with the rest.
that make sense then?
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on the report? Keep busy.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
There's a lot of information there.
There is,
A lot of information.
and that's pared down, actually.
Yeah.
We tried to boil it down as much as we could.
Yeah. I think it just adds validity to what we said earlier. It needs to go to cultural and event or culture, parks, culture and recreation by everything that was just presented there. There's a lot of work going on there. And just to be parks, I think that kind of proves that it needs to be more encompassing for everything you're doing or we're doing since I'm newer, but everything that you completed last year. Very, very awesome work, everybody.
Great. Well, I'd make a motion to approve the annual report as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Awesome.
Right.
Great. And 8B, recreation programs assessment.
Yes, and then real quick, just to let you know the next steps, I should have mentioned this in the beginning. So what we'll do then, now that you, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention on the rules, because we dug into it so much, that we'll file those with the city clerk's office. So going back to the rules, the park board rules. So, and what basically it's just housekeeping. What they do is they'll take it before the general government committee just once a year. So they'll take in, like, you file all the changes throughout the year with the city clerk, and then they'll take those, all of the changes at once to general government committee and then on to council, so that it all just gets done at once. So sorry, I forgot to mention before.
You are excused.
Okay, 8B recreation programs assessment. So we're gonna do a two-part presentation, Sue and I both. I'm gonna show you a diagram first, and then Sue's gonna walk through a couple of spreadsheets. And so this is part of our work that we're doing with our staff. It's our some of our internal objectives for the year. We have internal objectives and external. So the internal ones are working with our staff and our programs, and the external ones are working with the public. These ones kind of cross over, but we have a pyramid for that outlines a philosophy on program benefits and cost recovery. And so I'm going to pull that up on my screen.
Thank goodness for technology.
I know. She's already.
Zooming in. One.
Okay, so I need to do this one first, Sue, and then I'm gonna get back up.
Yep, okay, it's all good.
Okay, so this is, and what we've been doing in our staff meetings, our monthly staff meetings, is we talk about the why. And so we wanted to share the why of why we're doing this with you as well. So the reason we want to look at our pyramid for philosophy on program benefits and cost recovery is because we want to understand that there's different philosophies in different communities. So essentially, our department has been tasked with recouping all of our direct costs for recreation programs. And so, but it's important to understand that that's not always the same. You know, some communities are expected to recoup direct and indirect costs and overhead even in some other locations. And so we want to understand that philosophies are different in other communities. We want to identify where Lacey Parks currently stands, which is what I just stated. We recoup our direct cost as a whole department, and we'll get into that a little bit. We also want to understand that different programs have different benefit levels, which help, you know, with the cost recovery, they help offset each other. So for example, the highly individual programs, like this would be like a private swim lesson or a private event rental. Whereas a high community, and then we're gonna charge more for that activity because it's more of an individual benefit versus a higher community benefit would be like a free program or special
Children's
event.
Day.
Children's Day is a great example of high community benefit. It's free for the public to come in. But this is a more subsidized program, although you'll see on the spreadsheets, our events actually do bring in revenues. So these all balance each other out and you've got varying degrees and we'll show you more on the spreadsheet. Our staff went through and identified what benefit level we see some of the programs fitting in. So this pyramid is kind of a nice way just to see how it works. We want to understand where the flexibility lies in order for us to make changes. So as you know, COVID's kind of changed things. We're also doing a deep dive on our programs. We've reached out to the community and found out what they want to do. So we want to make changes, but we want to make sure everybody understands, we have the flexibility to make those changes as long as we're recouping our direct costs still overall as a department. So it's also really important to ensure we're all speaking the same language. So Sue's going to point out, what the direct costs are, what the indirect are, and what the overhead are. So with that, I'll let her go.
So do that one, which has everything in it.
Direct and indirect.
Yeah.
Is this the right one? Yeah.
So first off, we kind of divided things into different groups because the community center, the Jacob Smith House, those are out of the community buildings fund. So it's a different line item than the rest of it's an 005 where our recreation programs are 001. And later on, we didn't include the rack in this one, but we will in the future. It's a 007. It's a fund that's all on its own. That's an enterprise fund. So with the community center and the Jacob Smith House, these are from 2001. Normally, pre-COVID, if you look at the revenue right now, they brought in, basically $80,000. Pre-COVID, we were looking about 2020, 2025. We lost a lot of the state rentals due to COVID. There's a lot because nobody was meeting in person. We still were able to do some rentals, do some events. So at the end of, you've got Roger and you've got Justin and a portion of my time. When you're looking at the associated overhead, that's, the water, electricity, their printers, everything is basically taking to open and have that facility up and running, regardless of whether or not something was in or not. Those costs are going to be paid, whether there's $20,000 or there's $200,000, we still have to pay for the water and everything else. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, it was about, $34,000 including all of our costs. Jacob Smith House didn't get as hit as bad because it's never had as high a revenue. The highest revenue I think that Jacob Smith House has ever had is around 40,000. So to bring in 23 wasn't quite as big a hit as the other. Plus, we also didn't have nearly the expenses associated with it. If you're looking at shelters, I'm pretty self-explanatory because those are all done online. There's not a whole lot of time goes into it other than sending out some schedules. So shelters are a very good moneymaker for us and they help balance things out at the end of the day for some of the other programs that may or may not be making as much money as some of the others.
And before you get on to the other program areas, I'll just real quick. So the way you read this is these are the revenues coming in, right? These are the direct expenses, which is staffing, supplies.
If there's any, well, not
Professional
professional services, those are in there. And then Justin's mine, and then benefits obviously on both sides.
Yeah, indirect
Are in there.
is full-time staff that help support and then the benefits, like Sue said. So here's your total expenses, and then this is the revenue to expense ratio. So this is, if you're including direct and indirect, it's a 41% cost recovery. We're gonna show you another spreadsheet further down
Next.
without the indirect, which is just the direct, which is what we're tasked with, but we thought it would be a good idea.
And these two, the community center and the Jacob Smith House are a little different in the aspect of Rogers though he is a full-time FTE, we actually included him in the direct expenses because he is directly on site. That's where he is. That's what he does. And he's not in City Hall. He's not in other places doing other things. His sole job is to be there on site for rentals and to take rental inquiries and those type of things. So that is the one position that is an FTE that we included in direct expenses that is not included. You're not going to see that anywhere else in the spreadsheet. So just kind of going through these kind of real quickly, you know, cultural programs, we were able to bring back, you know, quite a number of things. You've got Cody's time. They were bringing in some stuff. You've got outdoor. We are not doing. The only expense there actually is, believe it's my time, because a portion of my salary goes into all of these different areas because I oversee them. Same thing with fitness. We had nothing really going on. We had a couple classes going on, but next really not much of anything. So the percentage when you're putting my time in there, it's kind of a misnomer.
We'll show you the next
The other
one.
one will be a little easier.
Yeah, and then I wanted to point out, so these correspond, this is what our staff went through. And if you guys have a question or you think it should be different, again, we all want to be on the same page with what type of programs, what category they fit into. So we see.
So we look at outdoor is, you know, individual, because it's an individual's going to go on a hike or do something. It's not really a community deal. It's for somebody's individual benefit more than community benefit. It's a community benefit. It's not completely individual because as a community benefit, we're getting people out, we're getting healthy, we're getting them out in nature, we're creating experiences for them. So it's individual, but there's still a community and portion for that.
And the price is really low.
And the price is
So
low.
it's, you know, more available.
Same thing for the couple of the fitness things we do. They're more individual, but there is a benefit. Aquatics, they take a pretty good hit because we have a pool contract with the school district. They're not doing as bad, largely because we weren't able to, they didn't have as much part-time staff money coming out because we're still, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, we're still in the area where we're struggling to find staff to do swimming lessons to basically help put on our programs. But Jenny and Marilyn did a great job with what they've got. So that's theirs. Youth and teen, that's day camps. Pretty much at this point, because we didn't do any ACT. They did a great job. We were able to offset a lot of things last year because we got a grant from the North Thurston Public Schools that helped offset a portion of what Cody was doing. And next year will be even better because not only did we have the North Thurston money coming back, but we also have a seat grant that's going to be helping us out. Sports was another kind of different anomaly. We're trying to figure out how we can divide it between youth and adult, but right now they're all combined. And one of the aspects, they have a great cost recovery. And one of the things that's also included in there is the field rentals, because for those that aren't familiar and haven't been around, we schedule all of the North Thurston Public Schools as well as the city's fields. For the North Thurston Public Schools, we collect all the revenue. We hold back 10% for our administrative costs, plus the cost of the Santa cans that are placed on the school facilities. And then they are in professional service, out of professional services, they are issued the remainder of the money. So we take on the administrative side for all of that. So the sports one also includes all of the fields stuff. Everything that's not associated with the RAC is in that budget. The museum, Erin did a great job. There were history talks. There were a couple of different classes where they did. So they were able to bring in a little bit of revenue, but that is another one that does not have a high cost recovery because it's a museum. And a lot of Erin's time is spent on doing stuff for the community with the aspect for the community. It's there for everybody. And then Jeanette's does have some sponsorships, and some of that comes into 3rd of July and some of the bigger events. And she does have quite a few sponsors for her Lacey and Tune and some of the different events that they do in the summer. But if you look at her cost recovery, opposed to say the museum, which could be close to zero, and hers is 15% is because she has the ability to bring in some of these bigger sponsorships. Were part of the bigger events, which are pretty much department wide.
So bottom line is, if you consider our direct and indirect, we have just under 40% cost recovery. If you add in the overhead, it brings us down to 38%.
Right, and the other thing to realize with this one that we did, if we're particularly, is we did not include the administrative side of things. So even though they are very vital to the role of and being able to do what we do, they were not included in this spreadsheet, but we are going to be including them in the 2022.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. And we also, for 2022, we want to include our software, our registration software, because we feel like, that should be considered a direct cost of running the programs, because we do have to pay for that software to facilitate registration for the fee-based programs. So you'll see some changes moving forward, but it's nice to kind of have a baseline that we're all speaking the same language. So when you guys hear us say direct cost recovery of 100%, you know what that means, or maybe we're up to 125, which is even better.
Yeah.
Do we have a target, an overall target that we want that number that's 38%? Do we want that to be where?
Well, not at this time. We've been basically asked to recover all of our direct costs, which is the next spreadsheet that you're going to see. And so in doing that, at the end of the day, so if you look at the column that says indirect expenses, we basically zeroed all of those out. We're still including some of the associated overhead. We're still including the overhead. We're just not going to include our indirect expenses, which is basically our full-time salaries, our full-time benefits, our full-time overtime. Those type of expenses we have not included. And if you scroll down to the end of the day.
And then this way you can just see the ratio
changes
for direct in this. Yeah. So if you go down.
So you down to the end of the day, we, and if actually go over one more, because I like to look at because they're still in the indirect cost. So even when we include the indirect, not the indirect, but the associated expenses, we still are recuperating at 101%. And we've been asked to cover expenses. And I believe we're doing that and then some by covering all those associated. We're able to cover the water, and all that stuff, not only with the community center, Jacob Smith House, but also the museum. We're able to cover those expenses. Though the museum is a building similar to the other two, it's still coming out of the recreation budget. It's not coming out of the community buildings. So if anybody has any questions of why the museum is there with all of our rec stuff, is because that's the budget that is coming out of. Does anybody have any questions? I'd love to answer them.
No, that's pretty comprehensive. All my questions are kind of being answered as you kind of continue.
So just kind of a heads up for 2022, for this year, we've already got established where we were for the beginning of the year. These were the budgeted, this is where we're at budgeted wise. And then we're going to be able to take that and compare it to where we fall at the end of the year. And we track things throughout the year too, to make sure that we're where we need to be. But it'll be nice to see with what we really wanted is, I track our budgets, all of our budgets I track monthly, but I'm also having staff close out their accounts every quarter for all of their programs. So I'm getting a quarterly report from all of our recreation staff for what they're doing. Well, I hate to say quarterly because now we're doing it 3. So try
3 times a year.
Every trimester.
Trimester. There you go.
So yeah, so they're responsible for closing out and reconciling their accounts, and they give those to me, but I still track where we're at on a monthly basis to make sure that we're where we need to be.
That information you try to adjust if you're off track or on track, or can you?
We can at the end of the year, if we have to do some budget adjustments, we can. One of the biggest things that I've found after all these years of doing it is there are times, especially with the facilities, where bills are they're assigned somewhere other than they're supposed to be. I mean, you can look at the Jacob Smith house and we haven't had water coming out for 2 months. And it's like, okay, well, that's the way I can track to make sure that we're on track, because we don't want to get hit at the end of the year saying, oh my God, we put those to the wrong account. So now I'm going to take out $60,000 when you think you're doing great. So that's where that's very advantageous.
So as we go through, the deep dive of the recreation programs assessment that we had talked about in the beginning, Sue and I are actually, our staff took a deep dive and they prioritized on different spreadsheets in their different program areas. And Sue and I are taking a deep dive on that. And then we're going to come up with some findings and recommendations, which we'll share with staff and then we'll share with the board as well. So this is mostly just to keep you in the loop of the work that we're doing. And it's also going to help us with the comprehensive plan update too, and determining one of the things that's going to be new in the comp plan is what is our level of service for recreation. That's not something that we've had in there before. So we want to be able to explain that and establish that. So I'm looking at a couple of different cities and how they've established that to give us, a way to explain that in the comp plan, which you'll be involved with. So.
And part of the other one real quick with the program assessment is coming out of a couple years of a pandemic. It was really an opportunity for our staff to look at what they're offering and why they're offering the programs. And is there a different direction that we might want to go, because things have changed so dramatically over the last 2 years. So it's been really eye-opening to kind of take a look at what they were thinking and how they were feeling about the different program areas. Because just because we've done it 3 years ago before the pandemic doesn't mean we have to do it now. And maybe there's a different path that we want to take.
So I want to thank Sue for all of her hard work with this.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. That's
cost
great.
recovery stuff.
The fun stuff.
Actually, it is.
She loves the numbers. So good.
I'm a number person. I like playing with the numbers.
We need wonderful people like you in the world. Oh.
Great. So no action item on this or anything, it's just informative.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So moving on to 8C, comprehensive plan public involvement plan draft.
Yeah, so in your packet, you'll see the public involvement plan draft, and it's going to look really familiar because we took the format from the Great Cuyo Park public involvement plan, and instead of reinventing the wheel, it had a lot of really good components to it. So I want to get your insights. It's not an action item, but I would actually like to pull the document up live and make changes if you have suggestions or questions. So tonight I'd like to get park board input, and then I would like to get insights from the Commission on Equity at their April 25th meeting. And then we can finalize the public involvement plan. This is a huge important piece of our comprehensive plan update because, as you know, involving the public is, super, super important. It's their plan really for the vision of Lacey Parks. And we've, as you know, I'll pull it up and it kind of walks through like some of the work that we did last year. So and I have to apologize. The version that I'm going to share right here, I've actually made a few updates already. So you can kind of compare. Like I said, it's a working document at this point. And so I can point those out to you, but essentially the purpose in the background is that the comprehensive plan gets updated every 6 years, part of our overall city's comprehensive plan. And we talk about with the background, if you guys were super involved with this, that we engaged in a discussion on the future vision of Lacey Parks. We had the outreach team. Some of you were involved with that. And the fact that that accelerated our public outreach process for our plan update. I mean, it's a perfect segue into what we're doing next. The goals are to build on relationships with target populations, identify engagement gaps, create a welcoming atmosphere, increase accessibility, make sure that we're developing alternative methods for engagement. We want to make sure that we're conducting proactive education about parks and why they matter. We've got a section on stakeholders and audiences. And so they're clumped into these categories, underrepresented populations. We've got a ton of stakeholders, our park users, nonprofit groups and organizations that we partner with. Just, we've got pages and pages of stakeholders that we can, send this out to. And then we have our city departments and programs, strategies and activities. These are the ways that we can reach out to people. Yes, absolutely.
When we were talking about the stakeholders, at what point do you send it out to them for like review, like the information? And like how much time do you provide them, to evaluate and make comments?
That's
Sorry.
a good question. So like so I think what you're talking about is
The-
once we
the
have like a full
timeline.
draft,
Okay.
like once we have the first draft of it, that's what you're saying, like
Yeah,
put it out there and let people comment.
Yeah.
So we can designate how long we want to give people, and we can show what opportunities they'll have. So this one,
because that will promote more like transparency and involvement
Yes.
into that, coming from previously working with stakeholder groups, that's definitely something that will help that and also improve upon, your plan as a whole.
yeah, and could you guys hear Camber okay? Yeah, so we'll have initial outreach to the public for this plan where it's more interactive. And what we're trying to do with that is take what we learned, our findings and recommendations from when we had our consultant and we did all the outreach last year. And we want them to help us like prioritize what's the most important of all the things and figure out what organizations to partner with to really get the public what they want. And then there's going to be the portion where after we have a first draft and a second draft, then they're going to be able to review the whole plan. So we need to fit that in there somewhere if it's not already. So that's a really good.
Well, I mean, the only reason, depending on the components of it, also the people stakeholder wise that would be able to be earlier on in the project, not nice, you know what I mean? Is certain stakeholders could be in this stage versus those that could be also after like the second draft. Because, kind of incorporating them in there, because there's a lot of, legislation or things that get passed, but don't integrate the certain stakeholders from the community in an earlier phase. And so they ultimately DOA. So that's what I'm trying to say. So I can't really give a good example because, I'm not, sure of your list of stakeholders of what you're speaking of. So, but I know that has happened numerous times on certain things because they didn't consider those
We need to do,
relevant
legal
stakeholders at certain periods,
notice.
Yeah, so it does say, so to your point, it says here,
I mean, once we do the
Um,
stakeholders.
in addition to organized outreach events, the city will explore other methods to continue the conversation with stakeholders throughout and potentially beyond this project. So this would be the spot, if you have a particular way we should do this, that we could put it in here.
there could be particular stakeholder forums specific to specific aspects that you could, have them like put it out and say, hey, once you participate in this forum related to ... And then, those people could participate and engage in like kind of a town hall integration. Is an idea, is for engagement.
Yeah, so put a pin in that for just a moment.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No, it's great feedback, and we'll go up to our schedule of outreach and involvement, and then we'll see how we can incorporate that in. But did you have a question, Gary? I
I
didn't
was
hear what you said.
wondering about some of this. Does any of this have to have legal notification to the public or anything?
Yeah, so basically, so Sarah Smith had shared we have it all in a project management, like all the different phases of it. One of those items was, and we went really quickly through it, but there is a public hearing that's required, and the planning commission is actually the ones who do that. So this thing is gonna go through Park Board, Commission on Equity, Historical Commission, and the Planning Commission. And probably twice, well, it'll come here every month, but to those other commissions, it's gonna go through, and then, so Planning Commission is last before it goes to City Council. That's final approval in 2023. It's typically August. And that's where the required public hearing takes place. Yeah, good question. So if we look at, so these are the means to get information out, right? City website, newsletters, notices and flyers, email, social media. We have media outlets, which is like our press releases, schedule of outreach and involvement. So here's a change that I made since the packet, and you guys can tell me what you think. I changed it from ending in September to October for our outreach, and I'll show you why I did that. And I also highlighted this. One of the things we weren't sure about is how many surveys because of survey fatigue, but Sarah Smith and I met with Public Affairs, and we talked about, to the point of patterning it after the Great Cuyo process. It was really nice. We had 3 public workshops, and after each workshop, we did a survey for at least 2 weeks so that if people couldn't make it to that venue, they could still give their input. So we really, we really liked that idea. It was super organized. It was very inclusive. So we think that we would like to do that. And so that way, like if we are in person somewhere, we can just give out the QR code for the survey and say, hey, I know you don't have time to talk to me right now, but here, go take the survey. Or, we can put that QR code on the website and say, if you didn't make the open house and you'd like to give input, here you go. This is on Facebook, and you can just hit the link. So at each of these events or stakeholder meetings, information received from the public last year would be shared, helping to have them help us prioritize and create partnerships for paths forward on those items. And so we wanted to update this schedule based on input from you all and also the Commission on Equity, because they're the ones who are going to help us get these underserved populations that we may not know what venue we need to go to. So I did make changes to this. I was thinking, and I wanted to see what you thought about this. Our first big outreach would be at the Lacey Spring Fun Fair. I talked to our event supervisor, Jeanette, and she said that would be wonderful, and she could put us in a high traffic area, and we could have an interactive booth. And then I thought we could just use, instead of having separate meetings, we could just dedicate like 30 minutes to 3 different park board meetings. And I was thinking every other month, so June, August, and October. We could certainly condense the timeline and do it every meeting, but I was just concerned that we wouldn't be able to get through regular business if we did it that way. So, but I do have the park board meetings listed here. So I was hoping to get your thoughts on that. And we would, if we're dedicating time, we would of course advertise that that's, we're dedicating a special amount of time for the comprehensive plan update and to get your feedback.
You normally get a lot of community input from that process.
Sometimes,
On the subject.
yeah. I feel like now that we have hybrid, it's better so people could just log in. It would be easy for them versus showing up. I think probably more than the meetings, we would get more interaction out where, if we meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Right.
But I thought it would be nice to be able to open this venue up as well, since we're already here and we're taking public comment anyway. But like I said, I'm open to suggestions.
Will will the meetings, if you do the park board meetings for, say, you're doing whatever the flyers are that are going out to notify the public?
Yeah, we can use all of these methods to notify of any of the events that we're going to host.
Okay. Yeah, because I think the one in my water bill is what I use a lot now.
We have it on the list.
When you look at it.
Oh, okay, so we need to add that here, actually.
Yeah, that'd be a great one.
I think it's, yeah, it's funny, it's not on here, I don't
Because it
think.
says
Did you guys
Lacey
see it?
Live and the playbook and
Yeah.
the monthly digital.
Oh,
It doesn't-
utility.
Yeah, it's up there.
There.
Yeah, your utility
There
insert.
it is.
yeah.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
how did we miss that one? Yeah.
Yeah, so if it goes out into that one, because that's where you had it for the surveys when we did the surveys. That's where I was finding the codes, the QCR codes or whatever to get into the surveys.
For the
So,
great deal, for great deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was a great idea. I thought that was the easiest way to communicate it out to everybody. And it's easy to share it with other people. So I send it out to everybody, even they're getting it on those, but I'm also sending it through my phone to everybody so they know it's coming directly from me. You've been put on notice.
And then just so you know, while all of this, the public outreach part is going on, we're also working on draft. When I say we, Sarah and I, Smith and I, we've already started working on the first draft. So there's stuff going on simultaneously. I just want to make sure I mentioned that so that you didn't think that we were just waiting to start work until after October. This is just extra bonus. So, and these are some of the events I wanted to check in with the Commission on Equity. But we also have lots of opportunities with our own events.
Most of those are our own events, but
And I heard you guys just got Love Local Lacey as well at
yeah,
Park.
they'll be out there. Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, she's gonna do it, but she's not gonna be doing the alcohol. She's chose to.
Yeah, I did all of them in Tumwater with her before and I saw her today at the gym.
That was sweet. Good.
It will get very busy after a couple, just FYI, so that might be a good spot, just.
Okay, so what Canberra is referring to is there's a Love Local Market that has been talking with our event staff, or excuse me, park rental
Facility.
staff. Yeah, Justin, about doing a market. I know they were talking about Hunter, and I know they were also talking about the depot site
I know, but they're gonna be a Hunter.
at
Yeah.
Hunter. Okay.
Yeah, it used to be in Tumwater on her property and it got overflowing and it was too many people. But it's a night artisan market from 5 to 9 PM, but she said she's good to go with you.
Yeah, she's been, yeah. When she got rid of the alcohol, it
Yeah.
was good to go.
Yeah.
That was the holding point.
I think she does, is it once a month?
Every other.
I think it's every other,
Thursday.
Yeah.
From. I was out there every Thursday.
I'm excited. I think it'll be it's nice to see.
And this, I was thinking with the rack, to hit the sports people. I was trying to figure out different.
Yeah, with the sports out at the rack, it's gonna need to be a weekday evenings, maybe take a week and just do something every night, because when you hit the weekends, there's too many people that are out of the community.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
And we don't want, we want to get the people that are in the community and everybody. One of the good ones, if we could get back into May, Cal Ripken does the end of their season tournament, and those are all local. And that might be a good event to have folks at as well. I don't have the exact date, but it's the end of May in there.
Cal Ripken.
Yeah, they're in the season tournament. It's all the local, it's just all of the local Cal Ripken teams at the end of the season, so.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
So do you guys have thoughts about using the park board meeting venue?
I think
I mean,
good time.
seems to be fine, yeah.
You
I think it's a
free is
good time as long as we publicize it a lot.
It could be a lot of people. If we got too many, we wouldn't have enough time for all public comments, probably.
Or we'd have to shorten the comments.
Yeah. Good problem to have.
It'd be a good problem, yeah.
But could you have just pre-screened survey questions for them? I mean, are we asking them to give us feedback, you know, in like paragraphs, or are we setting up something for them to answer questions on that are drafted?
Drafted.
the-
Yeah,
drafted.
because we've already, I mean, they're of course welcome to share anything, just at
Right.
just like all the time. But we've already we've done a ton of outreach, and now we have our findings and recommendations. And so it would be specific to those findings.
And then we're
So
giving
it would mirror whatever we get set up for the other events. It would be a similar experience at the park board meeting. It would just be another venue for them to be able to do that exercise.
And then we're just giving them 30 minutes to answer specific questions in our survey. Kind of how the format's gonna work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I mean, the other thing we could do is just take these off. People are always welcome to come to park board meetings as per usual, and then we just focus in on these going to where they are. So that's the other way to do it, is just, you know, not have this be a venue for providing feedback on the comp plan. I just thought since we were here, it might be nice, and also to try to engage, get people out to the park board meeting.
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to the idea.
Okay. That's all I had on that. I'm open to any other suggestions on this.
Is this document going to be provided to the public, or is this just an internal?
This is an internal document, but
Okay,
it, you know, some of the information will get repeated.
right,
out.
right, okay, perfect.
It's like our plan for what we're gonna do for public
Okay.
involvement. A lot of it'll wind up in the comp plan update, like this
Right.
is what we did, right?
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I guess that moves on to number 9. Do we have a staff presentation today?
Oh, so we
missed
added,
8D.
yeah, we added 8D, Aaron.
Oh, 8D. Oh my gosh, my own motion, I failed it. Okay, yeah, so 8D, Greg Cuyo tour.
Yeah, yeah, we were able to touch base with Jamie from maintenance, who is going to be helping out. I believe we had already had you guys hold this date, if I'm not mistaken, for April 29th, between 1 and 5 p.m. Commissioner Daniels, do you still get off work at 12:30?
Actually, I'm not here that day.
Oh, darn. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of town.
Do we have any others out of town this date, time? So we should take video for you?
Sorry to miss it, but I understand.
Can we like FaceTime it with you or something like that? Like live stream it with you?
I'm actually gonna be in the car driving back from California.
Okay.
So probably not.
We move it much later, it's gonna be really hard to walk because of all.
No,
the
it's
people
totally
that-
fine.
so.
Thank you.
We can do a video for you, Sarah. We can make something fun for you.
Yeah,
Walking through. Make it look like Blair Witch Project. We'll just we'll send Aaron out there and we'll film him really close in his face. Running around there.
So it would be great to have like drone footage, you know, or something so people can actually see. It's really hard to describe the amount of space. So I don't know if we can swing it for this date, but maybe we can get our drone operator out there at some point. But I do need to let you know that we actually will be tromping around, and it's a very uneven ground. And so, I don't know, do you want to explain it, Sue?
Okay, don't go in tennis shoes because you'll slide all over the place.
I got hiking boots, I'm ready.
Yeah, so
Something that can, hikey type boots is what you really want.
hiking boots, and if you know, if you're worried
know it
about
from a
uneven
friend.
surfaces, I wouldn't go. Or you could wait, well, no, because we figured we would park at Pleasant Glade because there's plenty of parking. I can open the gate and there's space. And then what we would do is walk through Pleasant Glade to Palm Creek Headwaters, but we would plant a van over there. So then we would shuttle everybody around after that point. Because parking is tricky and it'd be really confusing to try to explain.
How to get everywhere.
Yeah, how to get everywhere. So this was Jamie and Sarah's work today in getting what made the most sense together. So do you guys want to let us know? Do you know what you're doing that day? Are you guys available?
I'm good to go for it.
Yeah, for all I know, that worked just fine.
I don't have anything.
That sounds like enough to make it happen. So as we get closer, Sarah will send out an RSVP so we can just make sure we have everybody, make sure we know who we're expecting so we don't leave without you. That's all on that one.
All right, so I got a little thing here. All right, so now we're moving on to number 9, director's report. Is there a staff presentation?
No.
Okay, so sports commission update.
I do have a little bit to say on the Sports Commission. They are, Visit Olympia and Beyond is now, the Sports Commission is taking their nominations for the Spring Sports Awards. So there is a boys high school athlete of the year, girls high school athlete of the year, a men's collegiate, a women's collegiate, contributor of the year, those that contribute to sports in the community. There is a sports moment of the year. And there's also a sports legend of the year. Just kind of example of that one. Jack Kiley got it last year for the legend because he's just been so integral in senior games in this community. But they are taking nominations and that event will take place later this spring. But if you know of any local athletes or contact with anybody that might know of somebody, it's a great opportunity to highlight all of our young athletes in the community and give them some attention they deserve.
Where should they go to nominate?
It's Olympia, Visit Olympia and Beyond. Olympia and Beyond, it's the I keep on calling it the
I
VCB.
just want to make sure I posted it tonight, so.
Yeah, Experience Olympia and Beyond.
Experience.
And there will be, you want to kind of make it as, you could, if anything else, you can make it Attention Jeff Bowe, BOWE. If you go to sports.
Okay, awesome.
Let's scroll.
I've got kids in middle and high school, so there's plenty of
Yeah.
athletes running around.
I'm sure it doesn't have it on there yet because we're already taking, it's already been on Facebook. But anyway, it's a great opportunity to highlight some of the nice from our young athletes and the teams in the community. So.
Cool.
You want me to just move on to C?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yes, geez, your turn now. Also.
I'm gonna kind of go backwards. We've got some really exciting things going on. We've got the events. We do a minimum roll. We work with the anglers for the fish in, which is this coming Saturday. We've got 600 kids. It's full. So starting at 8 o'clock in the morning until 2:30, every hour, there's a different amount of kids going through. It's gonna be a really neat environment out there at Woodland Creek. It was a free program. They get a rod and a reel, and they get different clinics on safety and how to do the reel. I'm not a fisherman, so don't give me my technicals. How to do your pole thing. And so it's a great thing. And having that many people come out right after COVID, it obviously shows that we have a great need for people to want to get out and start doing things. Aquatics, still a huge wait list, a lot of demand and zero staff. We as a department as a whole, we're continuing to have struggle with getting staff. I know that we're not the only ones. It's pretty much across the board. Not just with us, but park maintenance is they can't get seasonal staff. Other jurisdictions are having the same problem, but the demand is still there. Cody's day camp, her spring day camp, he had 30 kids this week for spring break. So that was pretty exciting because things are starting to get back into a normal state for us. Sports, we've got leagues starting. We've got a lot of events starting. We do have a little bit of news. Our sports coordinator, Desiree, has taken a position with the city of Yelm. And her last day will be next Friday. So we will be looking at discussing how to fill that void and see how we're going to make everything work.
And who was that? Who's that? The last day?
Desiree?
Oh, wow. Oh, really? Oh,
Desiree Atkin, and she was just
Yeah.
here. Was it last
Mhm.
month or the one
Yeah,
before?
yeah, she was at the last
Here.
meeting.
Yeah, so.
It's a
Oh,
great
good for her.
opportunity for her. She's,
Yeah.
it's a good, I'm happy for her. Hate to lose her, but I always like to see people move into places that are going to help them out in the future.
Yelm doesn't have a recreation department, so she'll be instrumental in starting up. You all know how much growth is happening out there. So makes sense.
It's a neat opportunity for her.
I remember when Yelm didn't have a stoplight. So yeah, there's a lot of growth. So
Yeah, and Aram, I don't have anything else for the rest of the director's report.
oh, okay. Well, great. I guess moving on, is there any commissioners reports that they'd like to present to us? Anything? Sarah Daniels, Commissioner Daniels.
I just wanted to mention I'm sure we're all aware that pickleball has been named the official state sport. And I'm just assuming that since that's true, maybe we need to take that into consideration as we think about opportunities for expansion, yada, yada, etc. And then for whatever it's worth, this came up before. There is a public hearing. It was supposed to be scheduled. It was for Monday, but we had the big storm and wind and power outages, etc. So for anyone who might be interested, although if anything, I'd like for us to talk as a board about if we should, as a board, care about establishments that are proposed in immediate proximity to parks. So there is a hearing that has now been postponed. It's going to be on the 12th at 10 a.m. because there is a Chevron and mixed use, so it's sort of retail thing proposed next to a neighborhood park, not a community park, and certainly not the rack. Anyway, it's right immediately across from neighborhood park and just down the street from Salish Middle School, as well as immediately adjacent to where an elementary school is proposed by North Thurston Public Schools. Anyway, so there's been a lot of activity in the neighborhood. I happen to live nearby, so I'm very familiar, but just mentioning April 12th, 10 a.m. There's a Zoom thing. I'm sure someone at the city could get you hooked up. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. Anyone else?
I just wanted to say thank you for everybody organizing the cultural event. I did attend and I got to eat a lot of good food and I watched a lot of the dances that were there. It was wonderful. So I just wanted to share my thank yous, and I know Sue's a big proponent of getting that all set up. So it was very well organized, and I was happy to be greeted at the front door by the Lacey Park and Rec signs and all the people holding down the fort with the tables there. That was really wonderful, and getting to meet with all of them at the front door. So kudos, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I've stopped by as well. It was awesome. I got to watch the Irish step dancers.
Mhm.
And yeah, our recreation supervisor, Jeanette, really does a great job with that and all of our events, really. And the Commission on Equity had a booth, so that was kind of cool.
How was
And-
attendance?
Do you know the attendance numbers?
I don't
It was
know.
down. I know that we were down from years before COVID.
Sure.
That we normally get about 3,000 people. I want to say it was about 1,500.
That
Does
sounds
that
about
sound
right.
about right to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And given sort of a
We can add up.
transition,
Go anywhere.
What's that?
yeah, sounds good.
That was an event, if just for a little bit of history, that was in Olympia. And couldn't get their venues or whatever and wanted to move out. And actually it was Sean Finney who had the connections and got him to come out to Lacey. And I think it's been a fabulous addition to our programs. Sorry, Olympia, but we'll take them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I got nothing myself, so if there is nothing else anyone wants to address or say, this meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Hooray!
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks.